Watermelon Seeds Collective, the collective memory of resistance, and to build communities to resist together. So that's why we wanted to start teaching Tatris in different places, in Chile and in Canada as well. So as part of this exhibition, this part of the exhibition, we are three different collectives: the Watermelon Seeds Collective, the Tatri Circle Toronto, and the Tatri Sumud in Chile. The Watermelon Seeds Collective, the participants are, well, myself, Paz Jurado, Maria Paz Lira, that is here, Andrea Idrobo, Brenda Cortés, Miriam Compagnoni, Flavia Moreno, Priscila Diaz, Ana Raquel, Rosario Galvez, and Ana Maria Chacon and Marta Palominos. They were the first. So I wanted to show you this. We started first with Ana Maria Chacon and Marta Palominos in 2019 using arpillera as a way of show the resistance through art and what was happening in Chile in that moment. And then we created the Watermelon Seeds Collective in 2023 with all the participants that you can see here. And for this exhibit, the participants were Maria Paz Lira, Andrea, Brenda, Miriam, and myself. And then the Tatri Circle Toronto. So the Tatri Circle Toronto is open to everyone, and different people come every week. But here is the list of participants for this exhibit. So Samah Abdel Aziz, Jose Zenit Lira, Catherine Angus, Grace Yadi Darawi, Ana del Carmen de la O Cordero, Rana Havayev, and Rasha Al-Sharif. And as you can see, there are a lot of people here. So the aim is to invite everyone to participate. And then the Tatri Sumud in Chile, so is another Tatri circle. And the participants for this exhibit was Marcela Garcia, Adelaida Urrutiager, Maritza Abdala, Valentina Rubio, Vilma Alfaro, Elena Pastenes, Eugenia Leonor Valdivia, Marta Ayala Rojas, Matías Castellón, Sandra Jiménez Rodríguez, Gabriel Yo Muslo, and Marisol Pacheco. You can see here also. So I wanted to explain that we started as a Watermelon Seeds Collective, and then myself, I wanted to show the Tatris to everyone. So when I traveled to Chile, we created the Tatri Sumud, and then when I went back to Canada, we created the Tatri Circle Toronto. But what happened is that this started as a way of using textile art as a way of protest. But then people came together in a beautiful community and they really wanted to stay connected. So we started to meet every week. And now it's so beautiful because there is an entire community. And yeah, I think Maria Paz can talk also about the Tatri Circle Toronto.
Yeah, okay. You see me? You can hear me.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So yeah, the Tatri Circle in Toronto is basically like a little, I don't know, like a subdivision of what was the Watermelon Circle was. I guess it's just like responding to, with textile art, to some sort of like problematics and things that they're having at this moment, especially at the genocide happening in Palestine. The thing that is sort of bring us together as a collective is just this sort of like need of a space to maybe create something, to make something like as something that you can just touch. And in this case, Tatris is one of the more representative things in textile art, and developed through years in Palestine, symbolizing the resistance. And for us, just so concerned and so feeling that we wanted to do something, this sort of collective bring us together, and we kind of share these sort of concerns, problematics, dialogue, and ideas through the textile as a like canalize that in something physical. And the call to do something as a collective, that's transcend in some ways, and that's exactly what we were thinking to do and we want to do, just like with all these erasers that they're trying to erase so much of their traditions. So Paz, generally she will share some of her knowledge, and then we realize that there's so many more people that they are kind of in the same boat, and they want to find a safe space to create and to do art and to push as not resist, basically. So, and this as a collective, it becomes kind of more powerful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that englobes pretty much how we connect each other, because it's a community, as Maria Paz mentioned, it's like a safe space for everyone to talk about Palestine and to resist together through the art, is to show the knowledge and the Palestinian art, but also is to connect and to support each other in these hard times. So I also wanted to share the exhibit itself. Well, you will have time to see it until December 6th. So we invite you to go to the Sur Gallery. It's beautiful. But here are some pictures. And I also said this because it's so beautiful, how Tamara, as curator, she created this beautiful way to place the art pieces that shows the map of Palestine, like this. You can notice. So each of the pieces that you can see here is one like sentence or one statement of someone from Palestine. We wanted to do it in Arabic so we can represent what they say in their language in Palestine. And here you can see the meaning. So this one, for example, it says soul of my soul. This was the first one that actually Tamara invited us, inspired this whole exhibit, part of the exhibit. There are some in English as well. And all of these ones are this is a map of Palestine made by Samah. It's a poem of Mahmoud Darwish. So you can see there are symbols like the Handala, for example, with Palestine, but there are also phrases. Yeah, so we wanted to create this space to show what the people through these 2 years of genocide has been like saying. There are a lot of people that they are not here with us because of the genocide, but the collective memory is there, and we remind them. So for example, this one is the last words of one leader of the resistance, Sinwar. And yeah, this is a poem of Mahmoud Darwish as well. So, okay, here we have the opening night, the Tatris workshop. And then now I want to talk about Tatris. The Tatris workshop was at Sur Gallery as part of the collective memory exhibit. The facilitators were Samah, Maria Paz, Andrea, and myself. And let me see the time. I don't know how much time I have. Okay, 5 minutes, right? Something like that. Okay. So yeah, Tatris is the traditional Palestinian art of embroidery and cultural practice that use colorful thread to create patterns in textile, such as the thobe. The thobe is the traditional dress. Tatris is a visual language that communicates stories, identity, memory, and the connection to the land. In 2021, the UNESCO recognized Palestinian embroidery tatris as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. So this is the pattern that we work on that day. Is the key of return with Palestine. The key of return is very important because it's a symbol that we will return. So in 1948, for the Nakba, the families carry the keys and they carry with them and they pass it to the sons or the grandsons. And then it's a symbol that they one day will return to their homes. Here, well, it shows the materials, the thread that we need to use, how you do Tatris, and the motifs. This is the part that I wanted to show you. So the cypress tree is a symbol of solidarity. The moon of Bethlehem that you can see here is it symbolizes light, hope, and guidance. You can see in the patterns that some of them have like motifs inside of them. So for example, this is a watermelon with the motif of the moon of Bethlehem on it. And then also it's important to let you know that each region have like their own way to symbolize, to create the pattern for these symbols. So for example, the cypress trees, each region have like a different type of cypress tree. So when we talk about Tatris, we talk about the story of Palestine, the heritage, the identity, and also the connection to the land, because as you can see, there are a lot of like trees. There is like the oranges, the pigeons, the birds, you know, like the whole way to see, to respect the nature and the land. That is very important. And to finalize, I want to say free Palestine, Palestina Libre, but also I want to remind you all that the genocide is still ongoing. Even though there is a ceasefire, Israel is still bombing Gaza, and now with the resolution of the UN that's gonna allow the US to go and invade. The situation is very, very hard. So please keep Palestine in your thought and also keep talking about Palestine. That is very important. And if you want to join us to make Tatris, we have a Tatris circle. And please, Maria Paz, you can also share the information about the Tatris circle in Toronto.
Yeah, in Toronto, we were decide to meet every other week, and we are gonna share different spaces. Like there's for the first time, we're gonna do it at Sama's place, which is one of the members, and just to also expand a little bit because it's in another part of the city that we should meet. But all the information is gonna be always in the Instagram, because we try to move around And if there's something else that comes up, we will always inform everybody there. And yeah, everybody welcome, because it's still going. And it's a beautiful group of people, and there's always something to learn. From the new members, sometimes they're just some people that comes and they've been doing it for years, and for them it's been very special to have people from other nationalities caring about it and actually doing the trees as well with them. So yeah, everybody welcome.
Yeah, and if you are looking this from Santiago de Chile, we also have a Tatri circle here. The name is Taller Tatri Sumud in Chile, and we meet every Wednesday as well. So you can follow Watermelon Seeds Collective, Tatri Circle Toronto, and Tatri Sumud in Chile. Thank you so much, and free Palestine.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Gracias.
So we will have a moment for questions as mentioned, but I do want to go through all of the different collectives first, and then we can have questions for everyone at the end. I think that will make it a more smoother transition. So for our second collective, I have invited Triangle Collective, and with us tonight, we have all three members, Olga Barrios, Edgardo Moreno, and Coman Pun, who will share with us the work they developed at the Museum of Memory and Human Rights in Santiago, Chile, which is the work that they're showing at Collective Memory for the exhibition at Sur Gallery. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamara, for inviting us to the exhibition. We're very happy and honored to be part of it. So we started this collective in 2019 as part of the Vanguardia Dance Festival, and it was an invitation for Coleman and I to join Olga in a collaborative piece, like a multidisciplinary dance piece. So we all got to sort of join Olga on stage. It was very nerve-wracking, but we created a piece using sound and video and some text, and that was the first iteration of the triangle. And then the work of the triangle expanded into being a sort of triangulating art, the sort of evolving piece where we communicate through distance, because Olga lives most of her time in Colombia and I live in Hamilton and Coleman lives in Toronto. So what we would do is have these, what we called these conversations. So we would each, one of us would send, whether it was a video or an image or text, and then the rest of us would respond, and that would be like a conversation. We would conclude that, sometimes using the text or the video, sometimes repurposing it in some way, and then we would have another conversation. So we did that at a distance, which really worked well because the pandemic hit right away. So we were able to access funds to keep working at a distance, because it was just, we had already started working that way through social media, sending each other videos and so on. So during the pandemic, we were able to keep doing that, and though we snuck out and we went to Colombia at some point and did work in Colombia. So for the Museo de la Memoria, it's part of us visiting each other's territories, really. So we went to Colombia to be in Olga's territory and visited sites that where she grew up and where different things had happened that were of importance to her. And then Chile, I guess, was my turn, and we hope to go to Hong Kong later. So that's in the future. And in Chile, Well, what interests me about Chile was the concept of hauntology, and I think we spoke about this briefly, and I mentioned it before, which is something that I started to research because I saw that a lot of as a sound designer, as a composer, I saw that a lot of experimental sound and composition, they were using reel-to-reel tape. So it was very vintage sounding stuff. So there were cassettes, vinyl, all these different types of vintage media. And this is us in Chile. We're right there by the Mapocho. Anyway, so I started to research this concept of hauntology. I started to research why were artists using analog tape and vinyl and all these mediums, and I found this hauntology term, which it has to do with it comes from the Frankfurt School philosophy, the Marxist school in Frankfurt, and it's sort of like when the Soviet Union collapsed and when socialism sort of ended in Europe. We were left with this notion that there was a future that was promised to us that didn't happen. So it's sort of, we're haunted by a future that didn't happen. And as Chileans, we can totally relate to this because during the military, during the Allende time, I was a kid, but my parents were so hopeful and we had hope that there was going to be a better society built. And it was brutally repressed, and so we had to come to Canada, and this term of hauntology was so the Museo de la Memoria was a perfect place for us to go and sort of visit that philosophy. And there's a reel-to-reel tape recorder that was owned by a composer called Jorge Peña Hen, who was executed in October of 1974. And he was a composer and an orchestra director who had created the first children's orchestra in Chile. So there was a lot of hope and a lot of disappointment, a lot of very, very hard times for my parents and I having to come. So it was very important for us to go, for me, to take the collective to the Museo de la Memoria and sort of explore some of this history that haunted us in some way. You know, the hope that even during the dictatorship, there was still so much hope. And you see it in the arpilleras. All the dreams that were crushed are all present in all these different art forms in Chile. So we went and explored. We got to go into the collections. They were incredible. They opened up all the collections for us. And we were able to do in a month. I mean, there was so little that we were able to barely scratch the surface to get anything done because there's just so much there. And for me, I created two pieces, two sound pieces, and I created two videos. But the sound pieces, one of them is the recorder that you saw there. I manipulated all the knobs. We couldn't turn them on, they don't work anymore, but I manipulated the knobs, the on and off buttons, and moved the reels and I recorded all that sound with contact microphones and just microphones placed in different places. And then I created a sonic piece out of that. And to me, it's sort of extending the life of this artifact, that it's still involved in the creative process of being music, of being sound still, even though it's been sitting there for so long, nobody's used it. I feel like, you know, it's an honor to be able to extend the life of this object. I'm going to put in the chat the link to that piece if anybody wants to hear it. I suggest that you listen to it with headphones, and it's an electroacoustic piece, so it's kind of it creates a bit of a sonic world. There's Mono Gonzalez. We got to have Mono Gonzalez is a very iconic figure who he was one of the leading figures in the muralist movement in Chile, and it's a very specific way of doing murals. It's very popular in Chile, and he just won the national prize in art in Chile. So we got to have lunch. We met him and had lunch with him, and we talked about all kinds of things. Incredible personality. There we are. Feels like a little bit of a vacation slideshow. My time is almost up, and so this was sort of the basis for this residency. This sort of this notion of what was this future that didn't happen, and how did it affect me? How did it affect Chilean society? I mean, even if you look at Chile today, there was an election last Sunday, and it's the same feeling from the same amount of people in Chile, feeling that we're still owed a future, that we're still owed this future that was denied. So in some way, we all work and contribute, and we take little baby steps towards that future. There's Jorge Muller's camera. I also recorded that camera that filmed the bombing of the presidential palace in 1973. So we were able to touch it and manipulate it and add different types of microphones and record it. There's me recording that. So that's also in that piece that's there in the chat if anybody wants to listen to it afterwards. I think that's good for me. Sorry, I think I went over by a minute. Olga.
Okay, thank you. Well, as Edgardo mentioned it, we were like witnesses of what of his place, right? Of his place of origin. So we were there, and everything what we like discover and learn it and research, it was through his lenses, let's say, right? Because when they came to Colombia, it was kind of through my stories and through my lenses, how we connect with the social and political aspects of each one of these places. So, of course, we went to the museum and we tried to reach, and we were looking for different elements. And those elements were like murals, arpilleras, dances, songs, elements, like objects. People were very, very, very generous with that. And then there is something like, it was like, it's present in all the pieces, that is the sound, right? So all the pieces in what we are presenting here in the exhibition, the sound is Edgardo's sound, right? Like all the different videos, even the video from La Cueca, which is an echo of Cueca, is like the atmosphere of the museum, right? Is the echo of the space, but it was manipulated by Edgardo's equipment, right? So I wanted to mention that because I think it's very important to recognize that, like how everything came through those lenses. We're all like witnessing, of the whole history. And we were there, and as we did in Colombia, we were like connecting with places, of course. And the first place that really kind of resonates strong in me, it was the river, the Mapocho River. When I arrived the first day, I opened the door of the Airbnb where we were staying, and there was the sound of the river so present, and it was just there. So the river is part of many pieces in our conversations while we were working there. It's present in many of the sound pieces, like Edgardo's sound pieces. It's present and Commons video. We were there to the river, and when we went to the museum, we also asked about stories of the river. So we were directed to the Puente Bulnes, which it has a really strong histories, right? Stories. So there is a memorial in that bridge. So we were like discovering as many rivers in Latin America and in the world probably that carry on life, but also like a lot of death, right? So that was like a strong, potent aspect of Chile, like the Mapocho River. And also we were looking, as I mentioned before, for different elements, but also those elements were part of our like the stairs. Like in this case, each one of us were looking for like a kind of directing pieces, but everybody was collaborating with that. So our conversations in that moment were like live there. So we were discussing and helping each other with aspects of the creation of the pieces. In the case of the escalator, the escalera al exilio, right? That was a piece that was like a performance with all of the with all of them, with all of them, with all of us, and also people from the museum were collaborating with that piece. But also we were collaborating in the other pieces, right? Like for example, the binaural sound piece, which is there is like a sample in the gallery. We did it in the La Esplanada of the museum, and that was like a sound choreography. Edgardo has that idea, so I helped with the choreography. We had all the people running and saying the text around the space. And we, for like in the case of Commons, Edgardo was doing the camera. We were playing performers. We were performers of the other pieces. So it was like the way of collaborate, like in the conversations, like waving our ideas somehow, and helping each other to like create the idea of the other. So I think I'm gonna leave it to Common, because I think we don't have much time. But I just wanted to mention like those aspects. We have many things to that we would like to tell you about that this time. But I'll leave it to Common. And this is Edgardo's house. his parents' house. Like at the end of our journey. I
Thanks,
think
Brenda.
Common. Yeah.
I think I'm going to open something that I want to share with everyone. So I want to first off thank Tamara for inviting us as a collective. It's kind of rare for Triangle Collective because of our work. Being mostly in different locations outside of Canada, it's a rarity for us to be able to show it in Canada. And the work that we're currently on, which is something that is really potent for me, was because 50 years ago, Edgardo was dehomed and came to Canada as a child immigrant. So for me, as someone who is also an immigrant, but not dehomed in the same way, I feel the tragedy and the loss through my colleague, and also with Olga as well. We spent time also talking about her experiences of what it means to examine her life in Colombia only when she's outside of Colombia. And so we had a month to work together with the staff at the museum, as well as with local artists and activists. And part of the journey produced a whole plethora of works, of which we are showing in Sir Gallery 6 media works, 2 sound works, as well as a text-based work, which is printed and mounted in on the walls, as well as some photos of objects that were found objects that I created archival boxes for displaying. And I'll speak, and here's how it kind of showed up in the kind of sala audiovisual gallery that we transformed from a studio workspace. And part of, for me, the lens of being someone not from a Latin American background, but someone who is coming from a birth city and a birth nation that was colonized for 100 years before I emigrated to Canada. It's very charged to witness a country that is often aspiring for a utopia. And I think this is what touched me the most, is that historically, my understanding was that there was aspirations, cycles of aspirations for justice, for equity, for autonomy and sovereignty. And that every time these aspirations took shape, there were forces that were really, really against it and really violently suppressing it. And this is the world we live in, right? This is happening everywhere, not just in Chile. This is something that, as artists and as activists, we cannot ignore it. And we have to trust that the way that we see and the way that we work together and come together are itself a form of resistance. And that this type of knitting of stories, this surfacing of memories in hidden places, in hard to find places, to tease out complexities and also to understand that there are contradictions always. So for us, we were very interested very much in exploring classism. We were interested in exploring water rights, indigenous rights. But when we realized that we were the inaugural artists in residence at the Museo de la Memoria y los Derechos Humanos, we recalibrated our work so that we could be halfway between the mandate of the museum, which is to preserve history and to educate, and also to bring the contemporary, these issues that are ongoing, the classism, the anti-immigration, the anti-indigenous sentiments. It was a really rich time to be in community and to be in artistic exploration. And I very grateful to have had, as someone who is coming from a Chinese, Hong Kong Chinese background, which is itself going through its own live transformations, if I can be polite about it. The present is always layering itself all over the world. And so I'm just grateful also for my colleagues Edgardo and Olga, who have also opened their homes and their hearts to their stories, because the way that Triangle Collective has always worked is we unfold the personal and the relational with the geopolitical and the artistic. And we believe that the combination of those are not separate, and that they're all integrated and enmeshed in each other. Everything is political, everything is artistic. So I just want to end with that. And I want to thank also the amazing collectives that, Tamara, you've gathered, because I think we're all here because we believe that art has transformative power.
Thank you so much for that contribution, for those beautiful final words. And as mentioned, we will have time after our last collective to present for questions that people might have. So finally, I would like to welcome Colectiva Crear Poder Popular. With its members, not all are here, but a few are, and we have Denise Olivares and Gisela Frias who will be speaking on behalf of the collective. But the collective is also composed of Carolina Echeverria and Sarabeth Triviño, who is also here with us, and who will be able to answer any questions as well. Can always translate. They will discuss the Arpillera project currently on display entitled No Me Olviden, Arpillera, Forget Me Not, at Sur Gallery. And the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tamara. Just sitting up here. Can everybody see? Is it working well? You can hear me well? Great. Thank you very much, Tamara, and it's an honor to be here on behalf of La Colectiva Crear Poder Popular. Okay, so we are myself, Carolina Echeverria, Sarabeth Triviño, and Gisela Frias, as Tamara said earlier. Our story begins in February 2023. We are 4 Chilean women. We are artists, teachers, community workers, and researchers. We share an interest in the confluence of art, specifically textile art, social and climate justice, and participatory practices. We came together in February of 2024 upon the invitation of Carolina, who at the time had been recruited to work alongside well-known historian Geneviève Doré as artistic director of an upcoming exhibition called Créer le pouvoir populaire, l'héritage d'Allende au Québec, that was being organized by the Fondation Salvador Allende in Montreal. She invited us to create something together that could be shown at this exhibition. And we quickly found out that we shared many of the same ideas. So settling on arpillera making was not a difficult decision to make. As an artwork, the No Me Olviden arpillera explores memory and remembrance. In honoring the disappeared and the executed, we are responding to the dictatorship and its ongoing legacy of erasure. Therefore, its historical component is very important to the project. The following slide will, Gisela.
Good night, everyone. It's been really beautiful to actually see some arpilleras in your other presentations, but we thought that maybe we would share a little bit about what is an arpillera. So an arpillera is a form of textile art born in Chile and born in the kitchens and homes of very humble neighborhoods. It is a very humble type of art making, textile art making. An arpillera is a textile murals, a textile picture, and so most of them represent everyday kind of settings, as you can see in the one here. And women make these arpilleras from leftover fabrics, so very accessible, type of materials. And the what you see on an arpillera is usually something that people can relate to, things that are happening to people. The one that you're seeing here right now is one that was sent from Chile during the dictatorship up to communist cell of the Communist Party in here in Canada. Can you pass the next slide?
Yeah.
I see the same slide.
I don't know, it's slow. There we go.
Okay, all right. So the arpilleras were, quite recognized as an art form by the work of Violeta Parra as well. And like the one that you're seeing here is one that it's called the strike of the peasants. So also the arpilleras have been a form of a social speak, right? Denouncing different sort of social issues. And during the dictatorship, the arpilleras took quite an important relevance because of issues of censorship. Many of the women that were looking to also be able to express all the repression that was happening in Chile, turned to the arpilleras to do that. So many of the arpilleras during the dictatorship are actually denouncing all the violence, state violence taking place. The one that you're seeing here is one in calling out the disappeared during the dictatorship. Many of the arpilleras ended up in all over the world, being sent all over the world as a form of denouncing. So what you're looking at right now is our arpillera, the Forget Me Not arpillera. I thought we would share with you a little bit of the sort of curative idea behind this arpillera. You might not be able to sort of see it from just looking at it this way, but what you're really looking at here is an evening sky, a night sky. And then what you have on top of the sky is representation, textile representations that are meant to be stars, but are images and figures made of the disappeared and the murdered and the disappeared throughout the dictatorship. And what this arpillera was meant to do is to create a place and to call us to remember that we all have star DNA within us, and thus those that we haven't been able to find and those that we lost during the dictatorship are still with us, up in the sky as form of stardust, and they're looking upon us. So I'll just share the lines of the Little Prince, where it says, "And when you look up at the sky at night, since I shall be living on one of them, since I shall be laughing on one of them, for you, it will be as if all the stars are laughing. You, only you, will be the stars that can laugh." So the arpillera, you can see here the background of our first arpillera. It's actually two arpilleras, but you see on the top right the night sky and the making of some of the stars there at the bottom. So right now we have two arpilleras. They are quite large. If you've been to the gallery, you are actually would be looking at our second arpillera, the one that you can see there at the bottom. And actually, this picture is from the arpillera there at Sur Gallery, and we're very thankful that you share that with us. So they are about, well, 18.6 feet wide and 6 feet tall. And what you are sort of seeing are the different representations. The first panel has 1,308 representations. I'll talk about that in a minute, but they're representations of those that were murdered or went missing or missed during the dictatorship. So how we have been working since the beginning of the arpillera, when we began to do the arpilleras, we knew that it wasn't going to be something that we were going to do ourselves, that it was going to be a collective artwork, that we were going to call on the Chilean community and the more extensive community that supports social justice to join us in making these representations. And so we've had a series of workshops since getting ready for our first exhibit of the first arpillera in September of 2023. And we've had those workshops in different parts of Montreal, but also they've taken place in other parts of Canada. Some people have joined us remotely also. So different groups have organized to work on the representations and all over. About the representations, when we first began, we weren't quite sure how many people we were going to represent on the arpillera. But we began working with a Truth and Reconciliation report that came out in the beginning of the 1990s. That is part of a process of Truth and Reconciliation in Chile, where victims, the family of the victims of those that were murdered and disappeared came forward and provided their testimonies about their loved ones and what they knew about their disappearance or when they were murdered. So this report holds more than 3,000 stories of victims. So we began working with this particular report. And at the beginning, like I said, we weren't sure how many we were going to make, but at one point it just became very clear that it was important to represent every single person that was on that report. So during the workshops, what we do is we create a small base, a textile base of like the body of a person, and we share with the participants a real story, a name and a real story coming from the RETIC report. And sometimes, the participants can go online because there are other sites that have engaged with memory in Chile, and you can find more extensive stories. You can sometimes find pictures. But people then during the workshops that last between 2 and 2.5 hours engage in making the representation, right? Making clothes, embroidering a face, putting hair on the individuals. And as you can see, they're made with a lot of love and intention. The experience is quite varied. We've had people that have experience sewing and therefore they can do them quickly and they just do magic with, the thread and the textile. And then we've also had people who is their first time threading a needle, right? And it's a little bit more technically challenging, but it has also been an opportunity to to well, to build memory, right? To talk about Chile, to talk about what happened, to have people also know what is happening today about the environment of negation of, of this part of our story, and the importance of continuing to struggle for justice. So one component of the workshop is, as we're coming towards an end of the workshop, we ask the participants that are okay with doing this to show us the representation. We've got here someone who is showing their final work, and to read the story. So we're gonna play it and see if you can hear one of the stories.
Jaime Irneo Mondaca Celada, 19, single, hardworking, died on December 15, 1986 in Calama as a result of gunshot wounds. According to statements made by family members, on December 15, Jaime Mondaca was on the stairs of a public square, drinking in the company of his brother and a friend. As a Carabineros van arrived on the scene, the youths fled. The police opened fire, hitting Jaime Celada, who received 6 bullet wounds. The Superior Council is convinced that Jaime Irneo Mondaca Celada was the victim of a human rights violation perpetrated by agents of the state who used force situation. Jaime Irneo Mondaca Celada. Presente, ahora y siempre.
So as, when the participant finishes reading the story, we ask that they read the name of the person once again, and then everyone who's there then responds by saying presente, ahora y siempre, which is a call to presence. That is a very common, slogan or something that people do in different acts in commemoration of the disappeared. We have built also a platform. So besides the arpillera that you see, every single person that is represented on the arpillera is part of a very extensive Excel where we've got the name, we've got where that a picture of the figure of the representation of that person, and where it is in the arpillera. In the arpillera 1, the arpillera 2, and we've divided the arpillera in all sorts of different constellations. And then there is this platform will allow you to go on it, put the name of someone who is a murdered or disappeared individual, and then search it and see where it is in the arpillera, and also see the representation. There's also the work of a team of volunteers who has been reading these stories, also researching them and rewriting them in a personal, singular way. And so every time we have a story connected to the individual, it's also part of the platform. And well, where are things at? We are right now still working on finishing the second arpillera. The one that is being exhibited at Galería Sur is not finished yet. It's still a work in progress. We still have some people to represent, and so we are doing that. And we are happy to be able to share with you that the 2 arpilleras are going to be donated to the Violeta Parra Museum in Chile. And so we're in the process of doing that. I don't know if Denise, maybe you want to say something to sort of close us off?
Sure.
Were there anything that I might have missed? And
no, well, I think it's important to also say that during the workshops, what takes place, like you talked about, the magic of making and, but there's also a kind of magic moment that we all experience when we're in the same room together. And once the figures have been made and we share in the calling to presence, these people, these people that we're honoring. And we felt it in the Sur Gallery that day we did our workshop, and it was a heavy moment, but it was beautiful at the same time. It was beautiful to share with everybody, and it's part of our process of healing and part of our process of remembering the lives, but not only their lives, the lives of their families and the lives of people living in Chile even to this day, and those living in exile or outside of the country. And so this is a tremendous project that taps into our our human side of empathy as well, and yeah, and we hope that with the help of the many people that have contributed to the project, that this that the Artillera, both of them, will remain a tangible space for people to remember their loved ones. Thank you.